Hello everyone, and welcome to day one of distance learning. Every day when you log in, you're going to have another one of your teachers, whether it be me, Miss Steele, Miss Alexander, giving you a lesson. And we want to make sure you stay tuned. That way you can get every lesson inside of this packet as well as some additional resources that we have for you. All right? So with that being said, I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to change my screen so you're no longer going to see my face, but you're going to see what I'm seeing, which is going to be your work packet. Okay? So here we go. And it's taking a second. There we go. All right. So here we go. Distance Learning Student Work Packet Grade 3. Animal Habitats, ELA, Week 1. Unit Overview. You have learned about the various ways that plants and animals work together inside of an ecosystem. You have read about methods animals use to adapt to their habitats, along with how those habitats are often threatened by human activity. Distance Learning Summary. In this distance learning unit, you will explore the ways human interactions affects the inhabitants of an ecosystem. You will consider the ways various parts of the ecosystem work together. You will explore ways humans have both negatively and positively impacted various ecosystems. In the next 3 weeks, you will engage with text to investigate and write about the following line of inquiry. How are animal habitats affected when humans interact with their ecosystem? And this is great because we've done a lot of work on animal habitats. You guys have a lot of background knowledge, which is really going to help you as we're reading today. Day 1. Accessing prior knowledge and asking big questions. Objective. Today, you will read informational text to begin research on your narrative writing topic. Directions. Read the text titled Food Web and Earth's Plant and Animal Species Need Each Other to Survive. Report says, let's try it one more time. Directions. Read the text titled Food Web and Earth's Plant and Animal Species Need Each Other to Survive. Report says. There we go. Much better that time. Before reading, jot down information that demonstrates what you already know about how the ecosystem works. Use the 5 W's and H to ask clarifying questions in support of your research process. Asking questions can support you in your understanding of the topic. Be sure to consider the focus question below when asking your own questions about the topic. Focus question is, how do the parts of an ecosystem work together? Alright guys, so all this is really asking you to do is to ask questions before we begin to figure out what you already know and what you want to learn. Okay, so let's do that now. In this very first box where it says exploring my prior knowledge, what do I already know about this topic? All we're going to do here is write about what we already know about how the parts of an ecosystem work together. Okay, going back to this focus question. What do you already know about how an ecosystem or parts of an ecosystem work together? So you might already know that animals rely on each other for food. That fits with the focus question. I'm sure you know a lot more. What I want to do right now is I want to give you a chance to write what you already know in this box. I'm going to count to 10 in my mind, but if I'm moving too fast, please feel free to pause the video and continue after you're done writing. Okay? So go ahead and write and tell me what you already know about the topic. Okay, now we need to think about 4 questions that we want to know about the topic. So for example, thinking about again the focus question, how do the parts of an ecosystem work together? What do we want to know about this? I don't want to give you too much direction here. I want you to think about what you personally want to know, and I want to give you an opportunity to go ahead and write those 4 questions there. Again, I'm going to count to 10, and then if I'm moving too quickly, please go ahead and pause the video and then continue after you're done writing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. It's time now to read the text. As we read, I might stop and ask you a few questions. Again, just go ahead and pause, answer the question, and then move on after you're done. You don't have to write the question down. You can just answer verbally. It sounds kind of crazy to talk to a computer. That's okay. You can talk to the computer or you can say it in your mind. But either way, we want to make sure that we're both understanding what we're reading as we are reading. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead. Let's begin with the directions. Directions during read, pay attention to the important details that tell you what the text is mainly about. So the text is food web, and let's begin. A food web consists of all the food chains in a single ecosystem. All living things are in a food chain. For example, zebras eat plants and grasses. Lions eat the zebras. Lions, zebras, and plants all belong to one food chain. Other animals eat zebras too. Other animals eat the same plants. They all form different food chains. Put together, these food chains are called a food web. Let's stop here for a second. What is a food web? We know that a food chain is when a lion eats a zebra and the zebra eats the grass. That's a food chain. What's a food web? I'll give you a few seconds to answer and then we'll move on. Great. So by reading and rereading, we might be able to figure out that a food web is a combination of many different food chains. Let's move on. Trophic levels. Food chains have different levels. They are called trophic levels. Producers. Organisms in the first trophic level are called producers. Most producers are plants. Algae and some bacteria are also producers. Each producer makes its own food. Most producers use photosynthesis. That means they use sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to create energy. Can you guys tell me what is a producer? Great. A producer is a plant, usually, or sometimes an organism that makes its own food, usually through photosynthesis, which is the process when a plant absorbs sunlight and turns it into food. Let's keep going. Consumers. The next trophic levels are animals that eat producers. They are called consumers. Some consumers are herbivores while others are carnivores. They can also be omnivores, which means they eat both meat and plants. Just to go over this really quickly, guys, an herbivore is an animal that eats just plants. A carnivore is an animal that eats meat, just meat. And an herbivore is an animal that eats both plants and meat. Okay, let's keep going. Primary consumers are herbivores. They eat plants and other producers. Deer, mice, and elephants are herbivores. They eat grass, shrubs, and trees. In the desert, a mouse is a primary consumer. It eats seeds and fruit. In the ocean, many fish and turtles are herbivores. They eat algae and seagrass. Secondary consumers are animals that eat herbivores. In a desert, a secondary consumer may be a snake. It eats mice. In underwater kelp forests, sea otters are secondary consumers. They hunt sea urchins. Secondary consumers are at the third trophic level. Animals at the next level eat secondary consumers. In the desert, an owl or eagle may eat snakes. Top predators are also called apex predators. No other animal eats an apex predator. Lions are apex predators. Great white sharks are apex predators in the ocean. Alright guys, using what we've just read, can anyone give me, let's say, 3 examples of consumers that we just read about? Alright, they gave us many examples. But if we look back, we can find that some of the consumers they gave us are deer, mice, and elephants. Some other examples that they gave us would be an eagle and even snakes and owls. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to the. We're not the last page. We're not the last paragraph yet, but we're getting there. Okay. So this word that I have very much trouble pronouncing. Detritivores and decomposers. Let's try this again. Detritivores and decomposers are at the end of food chains. Detritivores eat things that are not alive. Vultures eat dead animals, for example. Some organisms, like fungi and bacteria, are decomposers. They turn dead plants and other organisms into soil. They let food chains start over. For example, grass makes food through photosynthesis. A rabbit eats the grass. Then a fox eats the rabbit. When the fox dies, worms and fungi break down its body. The animal becomes part of the soil. There, it leaves nutrients for plants to grow. This way, the cycle keeps going. Alright, so really quickly, please stop and give me an example of a detritivore or a decomposer. Can you define what one or both of those are for me? So by rereading, I think we would have figured out that detritivores are animals that eat things that are not alive, such as vultures. And we can also learn that decomposers are, for example, fungi and bacteria, and they help to change animals into soil. That way the cycle can continue. All right, let's keep going. Biomass. Biomass is the energy in living creatures. It starts with the sun's energy. Plants use sunlight to create energy, or biomass, for themselves. When animals eat these plants, they also create energy, or biomass. At each step, energy gets lost, though. Animals are only able to take a part of it. As you go up the food chain, there is less and less biomass. There is more energy in the lower trophic levels. That is why food webs need more producers than herbivores. They can only have a few carnivores and omnivores. Sometimes food chains can fail. If plants are destroyed, herbivores do not have enough to eat. Their numbers go down. Humans can also destroy a food chain. People cut down forests for wood. Bioaccumulation. Pesticides get into the soil and water. Sometimes an animal eats a polluted An animal eats a polluted plant. The pesticides stay in the animal's fat. Then a carnivore eats that animal. It takes in more and more pesticides. This is called bioaccumulation. In the 1940s and 50s, bald eagles began disappearing. DDT was a major reason. DDT stands for dichloro diphenyl trichloroethane. It is a pesticide. DDT was building up in soil and water. Fish ate organisms with DDT. Bald eagles ate the fish. Because of the DDT, they started laying eggs with thin shells. These shells often broke and the baby birds died. The U.S. government decided that using DDT was against the law. Many food webs have come back. Baby eagles are now hatching again. So really quickly, can anyone describe for me what bioaccumulation is or how it affects animals? Okay, so we learned that bioaccumulation is when a chemical like a pesticide gets inside of an animal's system and gets passed along through the food chain, right? And eventually what can happen is animals can begin to, like for example, the eagle began to lay thinner eggs that have thinner shells, and that kind of wiped out their population because the baby chicks were no longer able to survive in those thin shells. Okay, pretty interesting concept. Let's go on to our second article now. Directions. During reading, pay attention to the important details that tell you what the text is mainly about. Earth's plant and animal species need each other to survive, report says. Some people might think plants and animals do not make much difference to us. Scientists say we are all connected though. The world's biodiversity trouble could hurt everyone. Biodiversity is the variety of living things in an environment. An environment can be big or small. Forests, oceans, and deserts are examples. A report on Earth's species. A new report was released on May 6th. It said that nature is in trouble. It said that many kinds of animals could become extinct or die out. The decline of nature is everyone's problem, it said. It is happening around the world. The report was done by the United Nations. It is an international group that tries to get countries to work together. Nature is important for people to live, the report said. Stuart Pym is a professor at Duke University in North Carolina. He said if you hurt nature, it is going to bite you back. Below are 4 ways people depend on nature. Before we read below, let's stop and think to ourselves, what did this report say? Why or how was it important for people to understand this report? You can go back and reread here and continue there. Right, so we found out that the Earth is sort of in trouble because the biodiversity is going down, which means that there aren't really as many animals as there once was, and this could hurt not just nature but people. So here are the 4 ways that people depend on nature now. Food comes from nature. Kai Chan helped to write the report. He said almost all food comes from nature. He is a scientist at the University of British Columbia in Canada. The world is growing more food. There has been pressure on crops from pollution and other forces, though, he said. That has made prices go up, he said. Medicine and tests need the environment. Many people use medicines that come from nature. Thomas Lovejoy is a scientist at George Mason University in Virginia. He points to a microbe that lives in Yellowstone National Park. The park is in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The microbe is a tiny living thing. It is the key to a scientific reaction. It is used for health tests. Trees can help stop climate change and storm effects. The Earth is getting warmer. Scientists think that it is because of the fuel that people use. People burn these fuels to make energy. Many things from cars to lights to run on this energy. Burning the fuels creates greenhouse gases that get trapped in the air. They store heat, making the world hotter. Scientists call this global warming. The world's forests and oceans help. Without them, Earth would be warming faster, scientists said. Mangroves are trees that grow around the coast. They protect land from oceans and storms, the report said. Robert Watson was a leader on the report and said the mangroves are in trouble. People have used mangroves for other things. That leaves the land in more danger from storms, Watson said. A living planet. The Earth is a living planet, Lovejoy said. Many parts depend on each other, he said. Okay, guys, we are at the end of our 2 articles. Before we end our lesson today, can someone briefly just tell me how humans benefit from the Earth? Maybe just give me 2 reasons of how humans benefit from nature, or if humans benefit from the natural resources of the Earth. So one thing that we get from nature, of course, is our food. Just think about all the things that we eat. Vegetables come from nature. Our meats come from nature as well. And we also learned that medicines that we need to survive also come from nature. So those are two things that we get from nature, right? Of course, they listed four. Well, all right, guys, that's the end of our lesson today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you tomorrow. You're going to make sure we're logging back into YouTube every day. That way you can get some assistance from your packet. And please feel free to call any of your teachers if you need help or if you're confused by any of the lessons. I look forward to seeing you guys soon.